everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day. I thought for today's video I could do a bit of a balance in terms of the video that I last filmed, which was a favourite things I am enjoying right now as a minimalist, new and old. I thought today I would talk about things that I've bought and regretted. And it's not really the items themselves I want to talk about, it's more my reasoning as to why I now regret buying them. Some of the reasons why I bought those items in the first place, why I thought it was a good idea, and now why I don't and why it's actually a regretful purchase. I am generally quite a positive person and I don't tend to regret a lot. A lot of that stems, I think, from me making sensible decisions in the first place. I don't do many, really crazy, really adventurous things, which, says a lot about me as a person. I am quite a sensible person, which has led to me not regretting very much. But I also have the mindset of if I did something and at the time, I enjoyed it, it made me happy, then that shouldn't be something I necessarily regret later on. But that being said, I've never done anything that's had sort of like major life-changing repercussions, so I'm not really the person to give a talk on regret, to be perfectly honest. But let's talk about some things that I have regretted buying. I should also mention that I still own some of these things or had a very difficult time letting them go when it came to decluttering, and I'll explain all the what, where, when and how as I go along. So the first thing I regret buying is the HP Sprocket, and that is a little photo sticker printer made by HP that connects to an app on your phone and will print off any photos you want from your phone. I was set onto the idea of buying this because one of my favourite YouTubers at the time had one and was promoting it. I was in my early 20s at the time, and that is not an excuse for my naivety, but my head really didn't think too much around the whole people being paid money to promote products and all of that thing. And I saw this and I actually thought it would be a really good purchase to take with me abroad because I got married abroad, and I thought if I took some photos on my phone I could print them off and scrapbook them. Of course, actually whilst I was away I had no time to scrapbook in the first place, so it didn't even serve the original purpose that I had. The YouTuber that was advertising it as well showed a really nice variety of ways you could use it, like printing off pictures and sticking them on presents for people at Christmas and things like that, and it seemed like a really good product. But when it came to using it, I realised I just didn't have the use for it, and I definitely just bought it because I saw my favourite YouTuber had one. It wasn't particularly cheap and it also wasn't very good quality. I noticed when I printed out the photos from my phone, particularly if they had people in, it came out with like this speckly effect and the prints faded very quickly. Even if they weren't in direct sunlight or anything, they still faded very quickly. And the little slips that you printed on them, they sometimes curled, and quality wise I actually didn't think it was very good. But I have not been able to let that product go because of the money I spent on it. I have not sort of parted with it because I think, oh, I spent a lot of money on that for this gadget, and technically speaking I could still use it, but I'm always put off from using it because I know that the quality of the prints that you get out of it are not very good. You also have to pay more for the extra bits of paper, the sticker print sheets that you put in it. I don't know if you can still get them. I bought about 10 packs with the anticipation that I'd take them abroad with me, and then I have just over time when I've used it sort of used a couple at a time. But I think I've still got quite a few packets left because I really didn't get the use out of it. I definitely feel like I wouldn't have bought this product if I'd have just seen it on a website or in a normal ad. I definitely bought it because one of my favourite YouTubers at the time was advertising it, and I was just very open to being sucked into that whole lifestyle. Seeing your favourite YouTubers, they've got loads of money and they live really luxurious lifestyles, and that was something at the time I was like, wow, wouldn't it be amazing to live like that? And for some reason in my head that just told me that if I buy what they've got then I'll be living like them. Like totally naive, really bad mindset to be in, and obviously I think very differently to that now, but it has resulted in me really regretting buying the HP Sprocket. The second one is anything that is considered to be a collectible. As a teenager, I was very, very big into franchises, like TV series, movies. I would collect t-shirts and people would give me like mugs and stationery with that particular franchise on it. At one point, I think I even had some action figures, and I was very much into collections of things and sort of buying something just simply to add it to a collection and then it not really serve any other purpose. It would just sort of sit there gathering dust, and that is something I regretted buying. As well as with some, if you like, collectibles, there's the idea that they could increase in value over time, so I was always encouraged to do things like keep boxes that things came in and hold on to things rather than declutter them, because they might be worth something later on. And during my decluttering process, it has taken a lot for me to let go of things that could be considered collectibles and anything I've got a set of, because I've still got that mindset that I was raised with, that, you know, you should hold on to those, they might be worth something, rather than me thinking, does it matter if they're worth something later on? I really don't want them in my space right now. And you know, I could probably live with it if I found out that they were worth something and I just gave them away. Also, with any sort of collection, you can spend so much money on it. And personally, my viewpoint is, having done it and now looking back on it, is it really doesn't give you any value. You spend your money on it, you put it in the collection, and it sits there, and that is it. It doesn't give you anything back as far as I'm concerned, and it takes up space and it gathers dust. So for me, anything that I've ever bought that was part of a collection that I now have no interest in, I've outgrown, or even if, you know, it's from a franchise that I do still enjoy, I'm not at the extreme where I feel the need to collect the merchandise from that franchise. So I kind of regret ever spending money on a collection, because it was so much money to spend and it made the decluttering process so much harder. My next regret is anything that's a sort of seasonal kitchen item. So plates that you only use at Christmas, tea towels with Easter or Halloween or Christmas prints on. I have had all of these things and now decluttered everything. I don't think I own a single kitchen item that is seasonal, because, you know, I have items that are perfect for everyday use that can be used throughout those seasons, and I don't need seasonal specific items. Again, this is another thing that I was really sucked into by watching more sort of homeware channels on YouTube, and, you know, seeing people redecorate their house for different holidays. I really liked that, and, you know, the idea of that versus minimalism, they are very conflicting ideas, because you've then got to find somewhere to store all these things for the rest of the year, and you maybe have them out for a week or 2 weeks. So when all was said and done, I really didn't like having seasonal kitchen items. I don't mind decorating a little bit for Christmas in my living room, and I don't mind putting a pumpkin out at Halloween, but other than that, I really didn't need separate plates and glasses and tea towels and all sorts of things for different seasonal times of the year. And again, that was something I felt like I'd spent a lot of money on and got very little use out of it. I probably used it the following season, like I'd buy it in anticipation of the season, use it, and then come the same time next year, it just didn't bother. And whilst I'm still on that, novelty kitchen gadgets. In the past, I have been sucked into things like that, thinking it would make my life easier. And do you know what I hate the most about novelty kitchen gadgets? Is they're such a pain to clean. It's just another thing to have to clean up. A special thing for slicing specifically apples, and then specifically tomatoes, and then specifically bananas. You know what? My knife does all of that. And it's very easy to clean when I'm done. You know, I've had some really complicated ones before. I had this slicer that sliced vegetables, and you could put a different slice pattern in it, whether you wanted it like cubed or, I don't know, like in strips and whatever, but it was so difficult to put together. And then you have to take all these bits apart to clean it and then somehow get it back together again. It was more hassle than it was worth. The next thing is designer accessories. So I've mentioned it before, at one point in my life, I was determined to only have higher brand, sort of expensive designer clothes, and that started to spread into accessories and shoes, jewelry, and that was something I really regretted. I bought things that I wouldn't even normally use just because I saw it and it was designer, especially somewhere where you can get designer items at a lower price like TK Maxx, or in the US TJ Maxx. And also when I was on holiday in the US, I also went in Ross quite a bit because of their low prices on designer clothes. But I would see things that were designer that I would buy just for the sake of it because they were designer. Like when I think back, I bought a pair of Michael Kors earmuffs just because they were Michael Kors, and I have never worn a pair of earmuffs in my life. I bought a Michael Kors hat, which the style just didn't suit me. I don't think I even tried it on. I just assumed it would fit and look good because it was Michael Kors. I bought Ted Baker belts, you know, like the ones with the bows, but they didn't go with any of my outfits. And I bought them because they were designer. I bought them as accessories because they were cheaper than, let's say, buying an item of clothing. And so I just ended up with all these designer accessories that I wouldn't even wear because they're not a sort of item that I would wear in the first place. And then again, when it came to decluttering them, I had that moment of, this is designer, should I really be letting that go? And obviously the answer was yes, you don't even use it, but it really sort of put doubt in my mind about the money I'd spent on them and whether or not I should let them go. In the end we did, but something else I just regret buying. That was literally a case of buying for the sake of it. Buying just for the brand, just for the name, and with no intention of actually wearing it. That is just stupid. My next one is bedroom furniture, and this is from the point of view of buying your furniture before you've moved in. So as you may have spotted, as you've seen a few rooms in my house by now, near enough every single room in my house is furnished with IKEA furniture. This was our first house and we didn't have any furniture, so we basically had to furnish a whole house. There was two things we actually spent like a bit more money on, and that was our bedroom furniture in our master bedroom, so our bed and our bedside cabinets. That's all we bought in there. We didn't buy any like chests of drawers or anything. And then our sofas we spent a little bit more on. Everything else is pretty much IKEA. And in the room I'm in right now, this used to be like my dressing room. So all my clothes were in here. I had a dressing table to do my makeup. I had a massive 6-drawer chest to keep all my clothes in. And that's the furniture I'm talking about that I regret, because before I moved into this house, you know, I wasn't a minimalist, I was very maximalist. I bought clothes for fun, for a hobby, and so I knew I needed a lot of space to store my clothes. When we moved in and we saw the floor plan for this house, I had already designated this bedroom as like my clothes room, which is really weird now I think about it. And I was on the IKEA website planning like Pax wardrobe systems. I've got 3 wardrobe doors here, and my original intention was to have a system that went all the way along this back wall and then down the side wall, like a massive wardrobe system with all different sort of pull out things and fancy pantsy bits and pieces to store all my many clothes that I had at the time, with the ambition that there would be so much space in it that I could have even more. Luckily at some point, it was probably the price of it, talked me out of doing that, and in the end I settled for just having the wardrobe and having a really big chest of drawers. I also had a tall boy chest and then, as I said, a dressing table, but that didn't store any clothes. And even with that, I managed to fill it. It wasn't full when I moved in. It was quite crammed in, but it wasn't completely full. But over the course of sort of the first 6 months of living here, I had managed to fill it, and it just encouraged me to buy more clothes and sort of gave me the freedom to do that. And then obviously I started this minimalism journey. I decluttered so many of my clothes, I didn't even need that chest of drawers, so that was basically a wasted purchase, and I moved it downstairs into the garage, so it's used as storage down there. And I decided I no longer needed a dressing table, that I could just do my makeup in front of the mirror in my bedroom or in the bathroom. So those were 2 pieces of furniture that we bought and spent money on. Granted, they weren't expensive, but it's still money and it was still an unnecessary purchase. I used them for like a year and a half and that was it. You know, I don't intend to buy furniture to use just for a year and a half. So that was something I also regret buying. Next is random craft items. I've mentioned this in my no buy videos, and people have actually been very nice about that in the comments, saying, well, you couldn't have possibly known you weren't going to enjoy those crafts until you've tried them. And people have suggested using sort of smaller kits to test out whether you're going to enjoy something. And actually the comments on that were very lovely, when really my viewpoint of myself was that I'd been very stupid and very wasteful. So over lockdown, you know, we'll call it lockdown 1 because as I'm filming this, we're coming towards what we hope is the end of lockdown 3, but we'll see what is to come. So during lockdown 1, I ventured out into a few different craft areas, hobbies, things to try out, and I really should have known in myself that I was not going to be committed to those things because I am very set in my ways. I have found things that I love to do. I'm also a person that doesn't have a lot of spare time, and so I really should have known that I wouldn't have kept up with any of these new crafts or hobbies that I discovered. You know, I hardly find time to do the hobbies and craft things like painting and drawing that I already love to do. I hardly find the time to do that, so I don't know what I was thinking trying to branch out into new areas. I bought macrame things, which granted I did use all of that up, but I've now got an unfinished project which I would now need to spend more money on if I wanted to finish it, and I bought clay so I could do pottery. I bought a whole load of gardening supplies so I could try and grow my own veggies in the garden, and it was all just things that in the end I didn't commit to, I spent a lot of money on, and I'd have probably been better off just sticking to the hobbies that I actually know I enjoy doing and really spending the time sort of improving my craft in those areas and getting better rather than sort of flitting all over the place trying different things. The next one is makeup, specifically eyeshadow palettes and lip collections. I have now learnt that if I want makeup products, I really should play it just to my skin tone. There's no point in buying an eyeshadow palette where you're only going to use like 3, maybe 4 of the shades, or a lipstick collection where you like 2 of them and the rest are just not really for you. So from now on, I now know that I would only buy individual items, or I suppose with an eyeshadow palette, maybe something that's only got 3 or 4 shades in. I am currently doing a project pan to use up mainly eyeshadows and lipsticks that I bought so many of, and really that is just a regret for me. I've got more eyeshadow palettes than I could ever hope to use, and the shades in there that I know I won't use, and now I'm sort of trying to force myself to in order to use them up. But now I know just to buy makeup items specifically suited to my skin tone and not just like a whole big selection of them. So those are my items that I regret buying. Let me know down in the comments, is there anything you have regretted buying as well? Share with us what your reasoning is. Why did you end up regretting it? I think that's the most important part of this conversation, not necessarily the item itself, but why it turns out we regretted buying it at all. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care, bye.